That was Consumed by Fire, Walk with Jesus. Here on 94.9. It is 4:15 and it's that time of day on a Tuesday for Creation Ministries International. And if you have any questions for our Creation Ministries speaker, please just send those questions through to our text line, SMS 0401 949 949. Good afternoon, Dr. Don Batten. How are you this afternoon?
Hi, Mick. I'm well, thank you. Yeah, really good.
It's great to have you again, 2 weeks in a row. Awesome. And, of course, we always speak about pretty exciting things, quite often about recent news. We speak a lot about stuff to do with creation and evolution and even dinosaurs and aliens. And, well, this week, about something that was in the Creation magazine. Of course, you guys have a website, creation.com, but you also have a magazine.
Yeah, the magazine comes out 4 times a year, goes to over 100 countries around the world, actually.
Wow.
So, I'm actually the managing editor for it. So, 64 pages of brilliant information, colourful, it's the sort of thing you leave on a table and people can't help but pick it up and have a look at it. And
that was the first time I heard of Creation Ministries, was picking up one of these magazines that my father-in-law had left sitting around. And it was a few years back as well. And I picked it up and started peeking through it. And wow, some of the stories are just so, they get you in. They really suck you in because you need to know the answer. You sort of see the headline and go, I need to know about that.
Yep, that's a big impact on many, many people. So we're very encouraged by the feedback from people.
Yep.
And it's a really important resource that should be in every Christian home. Especially when they've got children. Our kids grew up. Our kids are grown up now, but our kids grew up with Creation magazine. It's been going nearly 50 years.
Yeah,
So,
well, I was only a kid when I saw it. And it was at the time, my girlfriend's house, and her father had them.
Right, yeah. Yeah, well, we got it well before I was involved with Creation Ministries International. We subscribed when we were just like anybody else. And our kids had it when they were growing up. And even primary school age kids will pick it up, and the nice pictures and colour and everything, they'll read the captions and... what the big message is, what we believe as Christians is real. It's not some sort of fairy tale, and God did actually create a world. It didn't just make itself. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
And so kids grow up with confidence that what we believe as Christians is true. It makes a big impact on their lives.
Yes, and of course there's some interesting stories in there at the moment that would capture some people's attention.
Well, the back page of a recent one, back cover, is a story that caught my fascination, and even as the editor, because I didn't know, and that foals, the baby horses, when they're in their mother's womb, just imagine those hooves. They've got 4 sharp hooves, and they're doing their calisthenics, their exercises, their gym workout, and kicking around inside mother's womb, and these sharp hooves kick their mother's womb to bits, and she bleeds to death, and that's the end of it.
Yep. Well, of course, we've all seen it with women who are pregnant. They go, "Oh, that was a big kick," and
that's right. Well, imagine that baby's got hooves on its feet, not just soft feet.
Yes. Yeah. No, well, that would be horrid.
Well, this is the thing, that the foals actually have little booties on their feet to protect their mother from the sharp feet.
Wow. Where did the booties come from?
Well, how do they ever survive? If they didn't have them right from the start, how do they ever survive pregnancy? How do we ever get any horses survive pregnancy if they didn't have them to start with? And so this is one of those conundrums for the whole evolutionary story is these things have to be in place for life to actually happen. You can't sort of have a piecemeal approach to these things and then sort of lucky accident add them later on.
Yes.
And this is just one of those many examples. And foals are born with booties on them. And so when they're born, they come out of the mother's womb. And this is rather topical for me because my wife and I just had our third granddaughter born this morning.
Oh, wow.
Right. So,
congratulations.
So, special day for us today.
Yes.
And just imagine this foals being born without the booties, and the mother wouldn't survive the process. So, and as they're born and they hit the ground, the sharp hooves break through the little booties, and they disintegrate, and then they walk around normally. Yeah.
Wow. So Mama Horse doesn't say, "Hey, where's your hat and scarf?" as well. You know, I know you got your booties on, but the hat and scarf.
That's right. That's right.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I mean, last week we were talking about those little tiny machines, molecular machines that are inside every one of our cells. And you sort of think, well, you know, even the booties have got to have all those little things in there building the booties in the first place. And every one of them has to do it in its own way. It can't just accidentally happen.
No, it's just not possible. And so they're designed by a super intelligent designer who knew they needed booties, otherwise Mum wouldn't survive the process of pregnancy. Yeah. So, amazing stuff. So that was on the back cover of Creation magazine just recently. So,
Do you know how many people actually read that magazine? Because, of course, I've met a lot of people who have got the magazine. I know a lot more people these days turn to the website, creation.com, but that magazine, I mean, it got me many, many moons ago when I wouldn't have had any interest to go and look at a website, to actually go and type the word in to look. It just happened to be sitting on a table for me, and that was the real advantage of having a magazine as opposed to a website.
Well, that's right. I mean, we have a digital version of the magazine, and when people subscribe to the print version, they automatically get the digital version, which they can share with up to 5 different people each time. You know, it's very readable even on a phone, the digital version.
Yep.
You know, just go to Read View and it comes up and you can actually read it on the phone. So you can share it with different people. But the thing is, and you touched upon this, is that a physical magazine sitting on a table, you can't do that with an electronic thing.
Yes.
Where you could go and print out an article and sort of leave it on the table, but it's not quite the same. But you leave the magazine, it lies around. The other thing is that when you subscribe to digital things, you know, you tend to think, I'll put that aside and read it later. And then what happens? You don't get around to reading it.
Yes.
Whereas when you've got the physical magazine sitting there, it's on the table, it's on your coffee table, it's on bedside, where your bedside chest of drawers is or whatever, where you've got your Bible or whatever. It's all, and it just reminds you, I need to read that and pick it up and read it and be able to share with things with other people. But you leave it lying around and it's so colourful, people pick it up and read it. You can't do that with an electronic version of something.
So are all the articles that are on the website, are they also in the magazine, all of them?
Yeah, so we have an archive. So after 12 months, we put the articles up that have been in the magazine on the website. So not every article, but almost every article right back to the year dot is actually on the website in an archive, so you can look them up. Yeah.
And there's some really catching headlines. UFOs, not extraterrestrial, and there's some really cool photos which grab your attention. And then there's another one, Germ's miniature motor has a clutch. I mean, that would get my attention. Like, what? A germ has a miniature motor and a clutch? I mean, this sort of stuff grabs your attention and you sort of go, okay, I have to open this and read it. Yeah,
that's right, yeah. So the physical magazine, sitting there, it's obvious, it's visible. Whereas something electronic, it's very easy to miss it or to just put it aside. And the physical magazine is so important. So we've got something like 30,000 subscribers, but we reckon that probably half a dozen people read each issue. So, you've probably got well over 100,000 people.
Yeah, wow.
Maybe closer to 200,000 people that read the magazine.
Yeah, and then, of course, on the other side of things, you do have the website, creation.com. where instead of being a magazine with those headlines that grab you, you can actually go onto the website and you can do searches. There's like topics with big images. They say, genetics, Noah's Ark, creation relevance, biology, dinosaurs, gospel, and literally click into these things and research whatever you want to research. Or, of course, you can go to the little search box and find, one of thousands and thousands of different articles.
Yeah. No, there's about 15,000 articles on the website, and there's about 4,000 or 5,000 articles in other languages. There was one I wrote some time ago now, but it's been updated a couple of times, called Whale Evolution Fraud. One of the popular evolutionary arguments in last 10, 15 years has been that whale fossils show evolution. That's not the case, and the article Whale Evolution Fraud spells out why. But I noticed the other day that it's got about 9 or 10 other languages it's been translated into. So people who speak a language other than English have read the article and said, we need that in our language. So it's it's in French and German and Chinese and all sorts of things. Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. You are on 94.9 this afternoon. It is 4:26. We've got to go into a song right now. We're going to come back to Dr. Don Batten soon after the weather and traffic, and we'll speak a little bit more about this. It is, you're on 94.9, Rima. That was Johnny Diaz, Let Faith Move You. You're on 94.9. It's 23 minutes to 5, and we have Dr. Don Batten on the line from Creation Ministries International. And in the last half hour, we were talking a bit about the creation.com website and the Creation magazine. And, well, Dr. Don, I have a question for you in regards to, I guess it is in regards to both. Of course, we hear about scientific publications all the time having retractions, mistakes, retractions. I'm just wondering, maybe if we can, talk about creation.com and all the stories you have. How many retractions would you have, say, in comparison? And then maybe the Bible. How many times has something been retracted from the Bible over the years?
Well, we can start with the Bible and say nothing.
All right.
That was inspired by God, so there's not likely to be any need for retractions. But
so they haven't been able to prove anything wrong.
That's correct, yeah. People have claimed things were wrong, and then they go do the research and find that they were wrong in making their claim.
Yes,
there's been a lot of archaeological claims like that. There's one about Daniel and his position in the kingdom, and the Bible said he was third in charge, and the archaeologists 100 years ago said no, that was wrong. He was second in charge. And then further discoveries found that he was third in charge.
There you go.
So the king's son apparently was second in charge, and he was off fighting a war in some other country. So Daniel was second in charge because he was away, but he wasn't actually second in charge. So that's the sort of thrust of the story. But there's lots of examples like that where people claimed, oh, this person didn't exist, and the Bible's just a work of fiction, and then they find that the person did exist as archaeological evidence, and there's more and more archaeological evidence appearing all the time.
Yeah. In fact, I quite enjoy seeing some of those stories when they go, we just dug up this and it proves King Solomon's temple was real and all these sort of things. And you read these stories quite often in the Israeli news and you think, there you go. They've proven it.
Yeah, well, Hezekiah's one now. There's, solid archaeological evidence that Hezekiah was real. Because Hezekiah's tunnel, but people claimed that, that was just named after him because it's part of the myth, But then a coin was found with his inscription on it, and that sort of thing. So, so lots of things like that. But regarding us and creation.com, I mean, we're human. We're not. We do pray for inspiration, but we don't claim to be perfect, and so we do make mistakes. Although with Creation magazine, the amount of checking that goes on with it, it far exceeds any secular scientific journal. I mean, we just go to the ninth level
Yep.
to check every article and have experts actually check things that we're not sure about, and the level of editing to make sure it's understandable to laymen as well. So being accurate scientifically, but also being understandable to an audience which isn't highly scientific. They're sort of hoops we jump through. But sometimes things are said, like, for example, hummingbirds. Woodpeckers, not hummingbirds, woodpeckers. Think about woodpeckers. They've got this pecking on the wood, and they're like a chisel hammering away at like a jackhammer hammering away at the wood to make a hole in the wood to get out grubs and things like that.
Yep.
And it was thought, and everybody thought, not just us, but everybody thought that they had shock absorbers in their head to actually stop them blowing their brains to bits by this process, which all made sense. But so we had an article about that written by Dr. David Clutchquill, which said that. They've been just recently, they've found by actual really detailed studies that in fact they don't have any shock absorbers in their head at all. And so we put a retraction on the article. So many other aspects of the article are correct, but that little part there, we put an editorial correction in the article so that people understand that this is not the case.
Yep.
So we do that when we find that things science has moved on, further things have been discovered, what we said wasn't exactly right. We go back and make an editorial correction so people understand this. But yes. I don't know of any scientific journal that does that. You do get retractions where someone's proven to be an absolute fraud. Like there was an example of an Indian geologist who published lots and lots of stuff, and then he was proven to be a fraud. And there's a guy in Germany regarding carbon dating, similar thing happened, and so the papers he published have been withdrawn, but that's very, very rare that happens. Yeah. But the journals don't go back and correct papers that published in the past. We do that, though.
Yep.
So I think we run to a higher standard than even the secular journals themselves.
Wow.
So, but as I say, we do make mistakes, but when we find out that we've made a mistake, we actually take action to make sure people are not misled by us.
Yes, yes. I guess the most important part of that is if you go to the Bible, you'll know that it's 100% spot on. And interestingly, science, each and every year we talk about something that science has just discovered that was talked about in the Bible, and you sort of think, how would they have possibly known that thousands of years ago when that was written? And they just say, we just realised that this lines up perfectly with what was written in the Bible. And we see that so often. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a statement in Job about the Pleiades, who has bound the Pleiades, who has loosed Orion. And it's interesting that astronomy in recent days, recent times, has found that Orion is actually moving apart. So it's actually the belt across the middle that actually they are moving apart, whereas the Pleiades is called a bound cluster, which is actually tightly held together. It's not actually moving apart. So you got these statements in the Bible which, it might be just a language of appearance that, the Pleiades are actually close together, whereas Orion is more spread out. But, wow, when you look at the research and this astronomy today that actually confirms that in an even fuller way, you think, there's an indication of divine inspiration here.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Now, look, we haven't got a lot of time left, but I wanted to ask you, I noticed that you've had a little bit to do with some of the articles written in creation.com in regards to UFOs. And, modern secular researchers are getting closer to the truth?
Yes. So Gary Bates has done a lot of work on this, and he wrote the book Alien Encounters and Alien alien intrusion, UFOs and the Evolutionary Connection, as a book, and a very, very good book about all this. He spent quite a bit of time going to UFO conferences and things and researching all this and interviewing people who said they were abducted by aliens and all this sort of thing, or had experiences of aliens speaking to them. And he's spoken to a lot of the secular researchers, people who are not Christians who've been researching the UFO phenomenon.
Yep.
And to cut a long story short, even the secular researchers are coming to the view that extraterrestrial or ET or UFOs are not an extraterrestrial phenomenon. They're actually an earthly phenomenon.
Yeah.
They're not coming from another dimension, some millions of light years away or something, but they're actually a local thing, and they are spiritual in nature. In fact, there's a guy, John Keel, who's deceased, but he wrote a book called The Mothman Prophecies. He was a secular guy, and he said that the Mothman Prophecies were made into a movie starring Richard Gere.
Yep.
And some people might remember that. And he said, quote, "The UFOs do not seem to exist as tangible manufactured objects. They do not conform to the natural laws of our environment. They seem to be nothing more than transmogrifications, tailoring themselves to our abilities to understand. The thousands of contacts with entities indicate that they are liars and put on artists.
Wow.
The UFO manifestations seem to be, by and large, merely minor variations of the age-old demonological phenomenon. In other words, just demonic, demonological phenomenon."
And this is
demonic.
a non-Christian writing this.
Non-Christian writing it, yeah.
Wow.
And others have come to similar conclusions, like a guy by the name of Nick Redfern is a ufologist, recognised guy, and he's come to a similar conclusion. In fact, he was interviewed on our documentary, which is the same title as the book by Gary Bates, which Alien Intrusion book. Alien Intrusion, the documentary, actually interviews Nick Redfern about this, and so these secular non-Christian researchers are coming to the view that these experiences, they're real experiences of the people. Don't get me wrong; we're not sort of saying they're imagining these things, but they are demonic in nature. They're not actually real extraterrestrial beings.
Yes. Wow, that's incredible. Now, look, I have to mention this, Dr. Don. I had a text come through. It says, "Hi, Mick and Don. For your information, I've put magazines in reception areas. I had a bunch, and I put them in sheltered bus stops around your minor with a note saying, for you to read, and they've all gone." That was from Linda. Creation Magazine. People do pick them up and read them.
Good on you, Linda. We need more people to do that sort of thing. Yeah, that's great. Wonderful.
Absolutely. Now, it is 4:49. We've got to go again. Dr. Don, thank you so much for another awesome week.
Thanks, Mick. Good to talk to you.
You are on 94.9. We've got For King and Country up next with What Are We Waiting For?